Welcome to another special edition for our Patreon folks, the Brown and Castillo podcast. As we're doing some bonus content for Patreon folks, we try to do at least one or two shows a month. And with the draft coming up, honestly, there's going to be a lot more draft content. Right now, I'm working on a smorgasbord, about 20 to 30 pictures that I was looking at through I've been since Thursday night, started putting together a list. So with names like Jensen Hirschhorn. Yeah, Hirschhorn. That kid looks really good. Dylan Vieg out of Georgia. There's a couple names on there as well, but it's also trying to establish what I love about the MLB draft, Chris, is trying to develop draft patterns of what the Tigers are doing. Because case in point, with Trey Cruz being called up, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, name, family, pedigree. This was during the Avila era. But during the Scott Harris era, it's been very hard to a certain extent. But now I think we have a kind of a down to a science a little bit, where the Northeast are going to go heavy in the Northeast. They're going to go heavy mid-California. They are going back to Oklahoma, which I was surprised with a little bit. They did that heavily last year or 2 years ago with the Owen Hall draft. But it seems like and even Arizona was kind of a thing too, where they're going to, I don't say parts unknown, but it's starting to become a little easier to not little. Yeah, I would say a little easier to see what they're doing on the draft.
Yeah, they have certain patterns for sure. They generally avoid corner bats. So they've only drafted, I think, two in the entire time, like two explicit corner bats, and that's Carson Rucker and Bo Ankeny, the first baseman they took last year. Other than that, some guys move to the corners, obviously, but they've stuck up the middle for the most part. Guys who can play center field or shortstop or second base or all three or catcher. And then, but after that, they love guys who can hit. They love, even if you're not a great defender, a la Max Anderson, they will take you if you can hit, and so that's makes sense. And then on pitching, I just wrote this in the draft recap. It's in something we've talked about before. They have a surprisingly high tolerance for taking high school pitching, which is generally considered the riskiest draft demographic, and they have not been rewarded in the slightest for doing that. And a lot of these guys have interesting arms, and you understand why they took them, but they just have not worked out. There's been so many injuries, and the guys who have pitched have not been good. So I don't know if they'll ever go away from that, though, because those kinds of pitchers are generally the ones you can give larger bonuses to get them out of their college commitment. And sometimes they take guys who they know are hurt, and that generally makes them, that's the only reason they are available. But so yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to continue to do that, but I suspect they will. Maybe they'll settle down on taking high school pitchers in the top 5 rounds, because that, again, it just hasn't worked out. But they've actually done pretty well with their college arms for the most part. Some guys have been hurt. Michael Massey is the one we bring up who's yet to pitch from 2025 or 2024 draft, I should say. But Andrew Sears is a solid college arm. They took a bunch of college arms last year, and most of them look pretty good. And they've done one of the JUCO ranks too, with Lucas Ellisalt and Cale Whitwiska and Cash Kuiper. Those guys have looked good. So yeah, they've done pretty well in the draft overall. It's just maybe settle down a little bit on those risky high school pitchers.
Yeah, maybe they will this year. I mean, this, as you were saying to me a couple of days ago, this is a deeper draft with among college arms, which we'll do another separate podcast about that based off the article I present, and we'll do probably a positional breakdown too as well. But it's what the Ben Jacobs experience has been really good. Witherspoon, who's been struggling a little bit, came back and pitched a really good game the other night, where you noticed he was throwing more of his changeup. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was one of the things when we came into the season, we're like, okay, this is a great arm, but there are things he needs to work on, right? And one of them was trying to miss bats with his fastball. It's probably not going to happen, but that's fine because it's a sinker. He does have a four-seamer, but as long as he's throwing, he's got 3 different breaking balls, and he can get swings and misses with all of those. And it was just like, can he get a consistent weapon against lefties? And he didn't have much of a changeup in college. At least they didn't ask him to throw it much. And we hadn't seen it much so far in pro ball, and I was starting to get worried that maybe he doesn't have one. But yeah, he broke it out. I think he threw 11 of them in the most recent start and got want to say 4 or 5 swings and misses. I think 7 swings and 4 misses. It looked good. It's 88 to 90 with some late drop and fade, and it's like, okay, this is a legitimate weapon. You break this out. I don't know about weapon, but it's another solid offering, and if you can have that to go along with the breaking balls, then yeah, everything's going to play up. So that was a nice sort of development we've seen. And again, he's relatively young, and the arm talent is really nice. So yeah, I like that pick. And you mentioned Jacobs, and then a handful of the other arms. We've seen flashes from Grayson Grinzel, although it's been downhill since the beginning of May. Caleb Lays is kind of holding his own, but nothing looks particularly flashy there. But again, you don't give up on development, right? Like, this is a guy, maybe he adds a tick or two of velocity and suddenly everything plays up. And we've talked a bunch about Charlie Christensen being just super fun. Yeah, he's pitched really well.
Yeah, and you talked about Elsalt earlier. He's been pitching better as of late in the last 3 starts. He looks like he's kind of same thing. Kind of Jerry was mentioning the timing of last year where he started coming around. It's similar to what we're seeing now. And that kind of leads into the topic. The reason why this is kind of important about the college aspect of it is the MLB proposal that came out, I believe it was on Thursday. And it is right now ongoing negotiations for the collective bargaining agreement end soon. And so this proposal will change the domestic draft, international signings, bonus money, college baseball, scouting departments, and basically how teams build the farm system. So that, it sounds over dramatic, but is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, no, it's got a huge kind of seismic change. High school players have been in the draft since the very beginning. I think the second overall pick was a high schooler.
Yeah.
So this would be a dramatic shift.
Yeah, this proposal would ban high school players from the domestic draft until at least 2 years removed from graduation. Move the domestic draft age to 20 by September 1st. Make college players eligible after a sophomore year instead of after their junior year. Create an international draft for players outside the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. Sorry, I have to say it that way. Move the international entry draft from 16 or entry age rather from 16 to 18. Cut the domestic draft from 20 rounds to 12. Create a 12-round international draft. Hard slot signing bonuses and cap amateur spending at about $200 million. Cap underdraft players at $10,000. Allow all draft picks to be traded, which that part I like that idea a lot. Eliminate competitive balance picks and reduce draft lottery teams, and keep the last part too, which is most important for a lot of these teams out here. Keep the 120 minor league teams in place when the current development license expires in 2030, which that surprised me a little bit, because if you look at what's going on in the Florida State League, for example, look, I would think that I understand that attendance is not that big of a deal down there, but there's nobody. I don't ever see anybody at games. I don't at all. And I'm just wondering how, if for profit purposes or what have you. And I know the Tigers spent a lot of money on Lakeland, so they're not going anywhere. Clearly, I'm not saying they're going to eliminate Lakeland or anything like that. It's just, if you look at the way things are structured right now across the board, I think the Tigers have a very good affiliate relationship with Toledo, Erie, West Michigan. I'm still thinking the West Michigan is going to go try to be a AAA ball club. I know they have a really good relationship with the Tigers. It makes sense, but they're also in the same backyard as the White Sox and the Cubs. And I don't know. The more I think about the MLB expansion idea, I don't think there's just enough of a depth right there to create 2 more teams. And if there was, I think it would affect the minors in the structure it is right now. Like Charlotte, if Charlotte got an expansion team, for example, therefore the White Sox will lose a team. Therefore, they're going to be looking for a AAA team that's probably be close by. I don't know. But when I'm looking at some of this proposal stuff, to me, it's a little it's ridiculous. Here's the thing. Like, you look at on the international side of things, is this just okay? So the first question I have for you is essentially, is this just a way for these MLB owners just to save some money? Is that really what it is down at the end of the day, really?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they don't love all the money that is spent. Now, we know minor league teams for the most part are independently owned, right? There's was it a Diamond Sports Group or whatever owns a whole bunch of them, but they are independently owned and operated. But Major League Baseball teams spend a ton of money still, on the things to keep these players, healthy and playing and stuff. And they would love to eliminate that aspect of their cost and farm it out to college, because they look at football, they look at basketball, and they see those sports getting free minor league training, basically, weeding out all the non-prospects by the time they get to pro ball. And I think the baseball owners are a little bit jealous of that. They don't like having this complicated process where they're paying all these guys who are not going to get to the big leagues just to play catch with their prospects. But other aspects of that are very much like it's almost a threat, right? That they're like, hey, with this proposal, we won't close a bunch of minor league affiliates. They're basically saying, reading between the lines, it's like, yeah, if you don't accept this, we are going to close a bunch of them. Which is, again, this is sort of classic baseball not thinking about the sport, but focusing on what they can own, what Major League Baseball can own itself, and not thinking about the health of the sport in general and all the smaller towns that are going to lose baseball and therefore lose the love of baseball. So the whole thing is really annoying and gross to me. I understand, like, there are aspects of it, like, yes, trading draft picks would be fun. And I think the only way to properly do that is to have hard slot bonuses, which would be fine, I think. Now, teams, I think, like to be able to spread it around. I don't mind the idea of hard slot bonuses, so you don't have to explain to people that, like, oh, this guy, he went in the third round, but he actually got first round money. It's like, all right, whatever. But again, like, to get that, they're cutting the entire bonus pool, I think, in half.
Yeah.
Like, it was a huge break. And the international draft sounds like a decent idea. It also feels like a logistical nightmare, and I don't think it's necessarily going to end all the issues we've seen with amateur free agents, international amateur free agency, which, involves kids leaving home and basically not learning anything but baseball, and particularly gross trainers, dosing them up with steroids or lying about their age because the trainers get, a large portion of the bonus. I think we'll still see some shenanigans like that, but it will, I guess, theoretically eliminate the handshake deals with 12-year-olds. But I don't know. There's a lot of aspects to it. I don't feel like baseball or the players union is going to agree to many of them, if any of them.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, for example, Kevin McGonigal under what would have been under the system, would not have been drafted by the Tigers. He would have been likely gone to Auburn because that's where he wanted to go. So same thing with like Max Clark under slot, and then they use that flexibility to go get McGonigal. Yeah, and then of course, but then McGonigal pick won't happen because he was a compensation pick, correct?
Yeah. I mean, you they wouldn't have Clark, they wouldn't have McGonigal, they wouldn't have Bryce Rayner. Those three high school bats, and I don't know. It just seems really short-sighted, and I mean, it's beyond this saving money on minor league players. It kind of kicks the free agency can down the road a little bit. Now, letting college players leave after 2 years mitigates that somewhat. You have 20-year-olds entering pro ball instead of 21 and 22-year-olds. But either way, they're just trying to get free agency down the road. And we've seen, more and more, the free agents are getting big deals, but they generally are the ones who are like 28 and under. And like Juan Soto, got a monstrous deal. And then after that, guys are going downhill, in their early 30s, and they're not getting the big free agent deals that they wanted to. And I don't know, there are multiple aspects of this where the owners are trying to create wedge issues, and then ultimately kind of split the union in half, and then maybe they can get their salary cap.
Yeah, and it definitely sounds like it's very a wedge. They're trying to drive a wedge, and I think that when I look at this, as far as the growth of the game, look, the game is getting more expensive. Case in point, like I refer to my brother all the time. My nephew, in order to get some sort of like right now, you see kids who are playing these travel leagues so they can get more exposure, and so that whole thing's not going away at all. That's not going to change. And that's going to help. If anything, I'm surprised colleges roll with this too, because even then you have the eligibility window or the transfer portal right now. So you're seeing a lot of guys. I think that would also affect the transfer portal, wouldn't you think a little bit? Because if you think about, so if you're eligible after your sophomore year, but let's say you didn't have a good sophomore year, you're going to need that junior year and you transfer elsewhere. That might help you a little bit, of course, but then you might lose out if you go to another school and say, you blow out your arm junior year. Sophomore year, you might have had some potential, but just the stats weren't there or what have you. I know I'm overthinking that a little bit, but it just, I don't know. What drives me nuts about this is on the international side of things. I know they're going to frame it as, well, it'll stop the under kids who are getting underage signing, and maybe stop those academies that are out of control who are getting a cut. But it's like, no, that's still going to happen. That's still going to happen regardless of what MLB does.
Yeah, it's always going to be shady. It's just the way it is. It's you don't want to get like, political, but much of the U.S. history involves people in the United States taking advantage of less privileged people in smaller countries. It's just kind of the way it goes, and they're going to find new ways to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I think that there will be an international draft at some point. I think partially because, again, teams, that way they won't have to necessarily shell out all sorts of money to have their own academies, right? But they've all already spent a lot of that money, and a lot of academies have gone in recently and been updated and stuff like that. So I don't know if we're going to see that this CBA or the next. It may be 15, 20 years down the road.
Yeah, if you think about the Platt Agreement of 1901.
Okay.
I mean, that's where essentially the withdrawal from the U.S. troops from following the Cuban Spanish American War, but it gave the right for the United States to intervene in Cuban affairs to preserve Cuban independence and maintain a ground capable of protecting life, property, and individual liberty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're looking out for the Cubans, is all.
Yeah,
always.
And that always and there's other acts like that. So, props for me to actually remember that kind of history. But I digress. But the other part of this too that I have a big time problem with is that I think the competitive balance picks, reducing draft lottery teams. Why is that? That's the part I'm trying to wrap my brain around a little bit. Is that so? To me, the competitive balance picks, and if anything, I think is a good way to, especially like a small market team, is helpful. Small market teams get that guy that can be impactful, and if they lose a free agent, that sounds like a big club going, oh well, I don't want to give my picks up. It sounds like the Mets and Dodgers were kind of crying foul about that. I don't know, but I don't. Yeah, I that part I'm having a hard time with.
So Jeff Passan wrote an article about this, and he had an interesting take on that. And it's basically like they're trying to back the players into a corner of saying, so baseball is saying, oh, we don't need to do this because there's already great balance, right? That's what you guys are saying. You're saying we don't need a salary cap because things are currently balanced. And so if the players say, no, these smaller teams need, competitive balance picks, then baseball would be like, well, that's probably why we need a salary cap, right? To balance things out. Like it's all about them, again, trying to wedge stuff in there. And it's going to get ugly, man. Like we've already seen it. There all these sort of, every time the players or the baseball sends out a proposal, the players immediately send out a memo talking about how garbage it is. And then the league comes out and says, these players aren't being realistic. And I don't know. It just keeps, they're really trying to play this out in public too. I think Major League Baseball understands that there are a lot of fans who want a salary cap, because a lot of fans just, they don't necessarily go into all the nuances of the way the business works. And they're taking advantage of the Dodgers being basically a dynasty right now with the highest payroll in the sport. But, traditionally speaking, that hasn't really mattered. Who has the second highest payroll in the sport? The Mets. And they are one of the worst teams in baseball this year. And teams like the Brewers don't spend any money, and the Rays, they don't spend any money, and Cleveland doesn't spend any money, but they're smart and they have good organizations and they win. But, the average fan maybe isn't necessarily looking that deep into everything that's going on there. They just see Dodgers sign every big player, and that's bad.
Yeah, and they see the Yankees, and they always automatically think they still. I think in some cases, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I have a strong faith that they still think the Yankees buy everybody because they drive up the market, because that was just something they did in the past. And every time there's a free agent out there, the Yankees are always tied to it, no matter what. It doesn't matter who it is. It's always the narrative out in the media is that the Yankees are involved in some sort of trade, like for example, the Tarek Skubal trade rumors. Automatically, it's like, well, George Lombard Jr. his dad is the coach, therefore, you can conclude that the Yankees and Tigers. Again, the Tigers are not going to tell you who they're going to trade for, or like even what they're interested in. I mean, that's just stupid. But I think that even with the other part of it too that I was mentioning is why reduce the draft lottery teams? I mean, like the draft lottery, I think if you look at the NBA, for example, whether you can call shenanigans all day on the NBA. I mean, Cleveland getting conveniently that. But I think with baseball, it's kind of hard to go. Like, for example, the White Sox have the number 1 pick, correct?
Yep.
So, but the year before they got hosed and they were right outside the top 10. So, there's not as many shenanigans per se, and not yet at least. There will probably be some shenanigans at some point. I'm assuming all sorts of shenanigans will happen. I mean, the 1985 Patrick Ewing getting the number 1 pick, and the frozen envelope thing.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, at some point it'll happen. But why? Is it because they're trying to make is it for a competitive purpose then, or?
Well, I think that ties into the idea that they say,
ties back into that. Okay.
Yeah, that we don't need this many lottery teams because the balance is just fine, right, guys? It's like they're really trying to get players to it does, like, it already is the most sort of detrimental of the. I don't know the proper way to say it, but it's the toughest on teams that are tanking, as it were. They can drop, I think, outside of the top 6. I don't think you can do that in any other sport if you have the worst record. And like you said, depending on your market size, you can only pick in the top 10 1 or 2 years in a row before you get kicked out to the 11th, which has happened to the White Sox. They're really just, again, the union is wanting to. Largely, I think, wanting to keep things the way they are and just get a larger share of money for younger players, which we've seen a little bit with the sort of the pre-arbitration bonus pools over the last few years. And they want to do something more about that because so many players don't get to free agency, or by the time they get to free agency, they're not making, they're not getting paid the way they should have been based on their production in like their first 3 or 4 years. So they want larger shares of money for the younger guys, but baseball just wants to try to drive wedge between the young guys and the old guys and the current players and the future players and big market players and little market players, and they're trying every little advantage they can, which includes fewer draft lottery teams and fewer competitive balance picks and fewer just getting rid of that system altogether.
And not to mention too, baseball is making pretty good coin right now. Their ratings are up. So I think people like the product as is. So if there's evidence to support that, I'm just kind of, I know why. Obviously, we all know why it's going on. I mean, baseball is just becoming greedier, and this is what Rob Manfield speaks for the owners, and this is what the owners want to do, and it's more clear than ever. That's what's going on with it. But what I would have an issue. The other issue I have with it is, so let's say you're the Kansas City Royals right now, and you have Bobby Witt Jr. might be out for a while, and he is he's a big draw, and they signed him to a long-term friendly deal, right? Because he's a franchise essentially. And then you lose a player like that, and then you have to, like, you're let's say, for example, you tend to maybe, like, you're trying to rebuild your team via the draft again, or whatever the case is. Then if you're not spending money on free agency, you go to the draft, you have to, it almost feels like there's what if the guy doesn't, like, as far as like increasing, so you had 12 picks to get this right? So less of a chance, what if a player doesn't hit? I mean, you can sit there and say, well, maybe a player does hit more because you have just 12 picks to work with. Yeah, what if you're bad at development? I mean, like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that also kind of kills some of the flexibility for some of the smaller market teams.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And what smaller market teams, they can't afford to go get a $70 million a year player, right? They can't. Right. What they can't afford is to put $5-10 million into player development and get players into their system as early as possible, and try to take somebody who isn't a $70 million player and help them grow into that. That's where they're trying to find the advantage. And it's, working for teams like the Rays, like I said, and the Brewers. But that, again, fans or, the general public doesn't see that side of it. They see the $70 million player going to the Dodgers. They don't see the other teams managing to compete despite all that. And and kind of limiting the number of players that teams like that can bring into their organization, and capping unsigned free agents at $10,000, which is insane.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. A guy, he could make that more in INL money, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely. That's kind of the point. Like, if you're a high schooler and you want to play pro ball, you get $10,000, and then up to, I think, 30 or 30,000 more if you get to full season ball. I think there were 2 instances where you can get 30,000 more. Neither of those are acceptable. Yeah, they're trying to push players to college, so that they don't have to pay for them. But it's I don't know. I we're hoping that things generally stay closer to status quo. I don't really feel like learning a whole new draft, and it'll just take the fun away from the draft for the most part, I think. I mean,
yeah,
I don't, maybe not. I just think it's cool when smart teams draft well and dumb teams don't. But I guess you'd have that in every sport anyway. So who knows?
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of the show, by the way, we will have our draft show Saturday night, July 11th, starting at whatever time it starts. I don't think there's a time start yet, is it?
The draft begins at like 1.
Okay, really?
So,
oh wow,
yeah.
It's really the day. Okay. So draft show, our normal draft show will be on Saturday, July 11th. On apparently streaming on Peacock, which was something that Chris told me about earlier in the week. Was like, cool, make it harder to find.
They don't. As long as you can get a little bit more money somehow.
Yeah, and look, I mean, if they're expanding their audience with Peacock, sure, I guess, but I don't know too many people that have like Peacock as popular service. I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but no, that is we will be doing our normal draft show. The Tigers are picking 22nd, but there's a lot to talk about beforehand, including we'll be talking about past drafts, like Chris did in his article. Who could the Tigers potentially draft? My goal this year is I'm taking a vacation during the week of the draft, so that way I can actually get the extra stuff done that I've been wanting to get done. So that'll be nice. But look, in as far as like who the Tigers are going to draft this year, you know what? I want them to go. I want them to go pitching, Chris, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they did well last year.
Yeah.
With which they stuck to their kind of left-handed hitting prep hitters up top, and then rather than 2 years ago that they went Max Anderson, and then they took a right-handed prep hitter and a left-handed prep pitcher, and then I guess that's 3 years ago. Then 2 years ago they went Bryce Rayner and then 2 prep pitchers. Last year they went, they took the prep hitters and then went college arm, basically, and that seems to have worked out well. And this is the sort of draft where I think that might work again. So they have the 22nd pick, so it's roughly where they picked last year. I think Yost was the 23rd pick, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's maybe 23rd, 24th pick. Yeah, I can't remember.
And then they don't have a competitive balance round A pick, but they have a B pick. So then they have like pick 61 and 69, I think. So it's a little bit like they had 2 years ago when they took Rayner and when they took Hall and Scheffelbein. But I do think that they could probably get 2 prep hitters again with those 2 of those top 3 picks and then go college arms, because it's a decently deep college arm crop this year. There just aren't a ton of like high upside guys. I don't know if there are any real options for them with that first pick for college pitchers. Like, there are options, right? But I don't know if it would be the best pick for them. But other than that, I could see them going college heavy again, and then maybe adding the occasional college outfielder or college infielder like they've done in the past. They haven't really taken many outfielders overall in the draft over the last 3 years.
Yeah, no, and that's interesting too. Like they if you look at some of we'll take a quick look at some of the outfielders here. That as far as like college outfielders, and here's the thing, there's been an abundance of them, abundance of college infielders too that they just completely and utterly ignored. Cam Smith comes to mind. But the outfield even to me it's even stranger because I look at the fact that maybe some of these college outfielders, or case in point, even look at John Peck, for example. He was like an older guy he's developed pretty well. What was it? The guy that traded the Braves too.
Jim Jarvis.
Yeah, Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
Although he put like super big, great numbers here, but he was put together. And so you could see some of the Avila aspects of the draft that made a lot of sense. But at the same time, like some of the, look at Max Anderson, another college player, infielder, mind you. But as far as outfielders go, I mean, if we're looking at, let's see here, let me pull up the draft here in a second. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
You're talking about for this year's draft? Or?
Yeah.
Okay,
this year's draft, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some college outfielders who are vaguely interesting near the top of the draft. Aiden Robbins for Texas is the guy that people have talked about, although I guess there are some, his numbers are good, and he finally got into some power this year, but there's still a fair amount of swing and miss in the zone, I guess. Zion Rose, I think he's from Louisville, maybe Cincinnati, is a guy that people seem to like a lot, kind of a tooled-up college outfielder who's producing this year. I think a lot of people like the high school outfielder Trevor Condon from Georgia. He was kind of an early favorite for the Tigers to take with their first overall pick, but he seems to be moving up boards to the point where he probably won't fit now. But he would, his profile fits exactly what the Tigers like. He's, left-handed high school prep hitter with great bat-to-ball skills and speed and center field defense and patience and all that good stuff. It is funny. We've talked before about, I think what we're going to start seeing soon is players get consistently compared to Kevin McGonigal as this sort of undersized, left-handed hitting prep player. And we talked about it. What we talked about before was with these true outliers, for whatever reason, end up becoming the most common comps. Like any tall lefty just becomes Randy Johnson. Or for a while, it was like any undersized right-handed second baseman was Dustin Pedroia. So I think we're going to get a lot of McGonigal comps. But that said, Condon kind of has a little bit of that McGonigal feel to him, and an outfielder.
Yeah, there's it's a thing that I really don't like, especially especially I'm always been weird about comps, just like you have been.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like doing that. It just seems like a kind of stupid thing to do, because to me, why are people looking for the guy's not a finished product yet? So one guy, go ahead.
Well, that's the thing. It's like nobody ever, we like Ben Malgeri, but nobody ever looks at a guy because this is the next Ben Malgeri, right? Like this is the next 6-year minor leaguer who might break into the big leagues at some point. They compare guys to people that we've heard of, which in general is unfair and puts a ceiling on most of these guys that's far higher than what they'll achieve. But it's just easier for some players for some fans to hear about a guy and go, okay, I understand what that kind of player is.
A guy who I like outfield wise, I just did a cursory glance, just really a couple names outfield wise, is AJ Gracia
from Virginia.
Yeah.
He's he and I think Derek Curiel are considered two of the better college hitters in this year's draft as pure hitters. It's Derek Curiel from LSU. Gracia has produced more game power, although I think Curiel actually has higher exit velocities. But I'm not sure if either of those guys are going to get to the Tigers pick, because they, generally speaking, the teams kind of put or push college players up their board when they get to the draft. They go through and they like these high school guys, and then they go, you know what, this guy's actually done it for 3 years, and they just kind of move up. So I wouldn't hate Gracia if he gets to the Tigers, although he's more of a corner outfielder, I believe, so he doesn't necessarily fit their up the middle profile. But you need guys who can hit in the corners too. Yeah,
which they don't really have, to be honest, right now. They really don't. I mean, it's the guy can hit. I don't care if he's up the middle or not. I mean, but that's just that's my amateur take on it. It's just I think that, especially a corner outfielder with power, what a concept, right?
Yeah, it's I mean they've got a couple of those, but we saw, they had a chance to take Wyatt Langford, and they picked the prep high schooler over him because he's a center fielder. I think Langford has started playing center field pretty well too. So, but yeah, it just doesn't feel like something they're necessarily targeting. I think they feel like they could take these guys who can hit and eventually get them to grow into power.
Yeah, or somebody like Tyler Head.
From NC State.
Yeah,
he's another guy who's been kind of climbing up boards a little bit, and they've had some players from NC State in recent years, right? Garrett Pennington they picked up. And I'm trying to remember. I feel like they've had a couple more, but I know
it's gonna draw a blank on me now. I know that's probably more so. Was it the guy that
yeah.
The guy, Deferidge, Brock Deferidge. Did he go to?
Yeah, I think him, but I'm thinking of the left-handed first baseman / outfielder that they had forever that Yoop called because he was from like an Iowa JUCO.
Austin Murr.
Yeah, Murr.
Yeah.
So they've taken some, and that was, I think Murr may have been pre this crew, but anyway, Ty Head is an interesting player for sure. I think I do like some of there are a handful of like prep shortstop types who might just get moved to the outfield. One of them, James Clark, is a guy that some people, early on were projecting the Tigers in the first round. He seems to be more of a second round sandwich guy now. He went to the National High School Invitational in North Carolina, which is, they bring, I don't remember how many teams, but like the best high school teams in the country come together for a tournament. And it's like the best spot to see the best high school players compete against one another. And he looked really bad on defense, apparently. Like he was a shortstop, but just kept, it was rough. So people are projecting him to outfield, which is fine though, because he's a plus runner and he's got a great hit tool and he's patient and everything else fits the Tigers to a T. So he would be an interesting outfielder there, I think. There's a kid from Pennsylvania I love named Luke Williams. I think he's too risky for the Tigers because there's a big question about the hit tool. But he's a plus athlete, like an 80 grade runner, has power potential. He'd be a lot of fun out there. But again, like I just feel like it's a bit too much for the Tigers. But there's some other guys out there. Blake Bowen, I think his name is. There's two Bowens I like. One of them is from Indiana, and then the other one is from California. Let me look. Yeah, Blake Bowen is the one from California. He's a big tooled up outfielder with swing and miss issues. And then Dylan Bowen is the shortstop from Indiana with, pretty good skills. And then his tools popped up later this year. So I don't know. There are a lot of fun infield, like shortstop / center field types in this year's draft. And I think the Tigers are going to take at least one of them, if not two.
There's a guy out of high school too that I like, right-handed bat. A little bit of like it was a random clip I saw on Twitter. It was Michaela Washington.
Malachi Washington?
Malachi, yeah. Malachi Washington, yeah.
Yeah, Tigers are loading up on all their Malachis. Yeah, no, he's an exciting prospect. He's been, I think, generally like considered like a top 4 pick, front round pick. He's another guy who's the hit tool is like the main question with him, but everything else projects to above average to plus. And Georgia high school is generally a great place to draft prep kids from. There's another kid I like from Georgia as well. He's not as highly regarded like on lists, but I saw some clips of him earlier this year, and I just liked it. It's a kid named Isaiah Gallison. He's also from Georgia. He's a plus runner. He was originally in the next year's draft, so he's relatively young. He'll still be 18 at the draft, but pretty young. And he's a plus runner with some pop and like big bat speed. So, there's a lot of exciting young prep kids in this class, and it would be a real bummer if you weren't able to draft them one day.
Yeah, all because you want to save some money, and even then, is that really saving a lot? The answer, I don't personally think so, but yeah, but like I said, whatever. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Well, I did. You were looking into a bunch of college pitchers because we talked about it. Like it seems to be a successful route. So I was wondering if there were. I know you were going to write an article about it. Were there people that jumped out to you? You mentioned the Notre Dame guy.
Yeah. So my list. So I created, so I've done like yesterday when I was at the game, I started creating a list and then I started, what I do with my draft process is simple. It's really, I take a notebook and I start like going over names and then just start writing them down who I like. When I go, like, I'll look up. So Baseball America is a good source of reference for like in terms of like top 100, top 200 guys. And what I'll end up doing is I'll look them over and go, okay, I'll look at a name and go, and I'll look at video and see what's intriguing about them, what's not intriguing to me at least, and what the Tigers could potentially get out of this. And so, in the past, it was easy. Like I said, it was easier because I was able to kind of distinguish, the Tigers had to type easily, but even like I said, but just if you look at again, with baseball, you don't, I've said that, I was saying this in my article, you don't draft on need, you draft by want, and so one guy that stood out to me was Jack Radel out of Notre Dame, a right-hander, 6'5". He throws a fastball. He can touch 97, but he's got a really good slider. The slider and the fastball slider combination really is that stands out. The reason why I also kind of gives pause a little bit is because his K numbers are not that great, but it fits that kind of Midwest North Tigers. I think he'd be a guy who could rise up in the system pretty quickly. And I say that because if you don't, the Tigers are in this weird flux of as far as like developing pitchers right now because the amount of injuries. So like right now, you could say, like, all right, well, what are they doing? They have no idea what they're doing. Okay, but I think they never made a move after Rivas left, so maybe they're in a state of flux. But I mean, I have his highlights right here. I'm going to pull it up right now. The reason why I like his stuff is because he could, in addition to moving up to the Tigers system pretty quickly, I just look at how his in terms of what the Tigers can do with this.
Then he goes.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about Radel is that he's been a consistent sort of we like the size, right? A consistent starter for Notre Dame, and they've taken players from Notre Dame before, Jack Penny. And the thing about this year is though he actually had like a bump up in his stuff.
Yeah.
And so his strikeout rate was pretty low before. It was like under 8 per 9 in his first 2 years, but this year it's up to 11 plus. So, part of that maybe is just he's a junior and knows how to pitch better and he's facing younger guys, but he strikes me as the sort of guy who might sneak into the back of the first round or be like a sandwich round pick. If you take a risky prep player with your first pick, you take this sort of, safer college guy who there might not be a ton of upside there, but you're looking at like a pretty solid bet to be a number 5, maybe even a number 4 starter.
Yeah, and what I like about him too is that he does pound the strike zone a lot, and so that is a big part of this. A lot what the Tigers profile with is that guys that can consistently pound the strike zone and can go and throw at least 3 or 4 pitches deep. I mean, if you look at some of the college guys they've drafted recently, Jacobs, for example, comes to mind. They all have really, really good breaking stuff too. And so that was one thing that stood out to me. Another pitcher that is on my list that I look, I might get some crap for thinking that he might go for the Tigers at this pick, but honestly, I don't know. Out of all the stuff I saw out of some of the just doing some preliminary research in the last couple of days, look, I know you had a specific highlight of this guy. I'm just trying to find what you sent me.
Jensen, is it Jensen Hirschkorn?
Yeah.
Jensen Hirschkorn, yeah. So he's a big, I think 6'7".
Yeah, he's a big dude. But I pulled him up just now.
High school arm. Yeah, it was at the area code games, I think, where he had one of the loudest performances anybody's ever seen. And this is the video. Yeah, he faced 9 batters. He struck all 9 of them out, all swinging. And yeah, like you see, he's a tall kid already, but there's probably room for more strength. And he's already, sitting mid-90s.
Oops, sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, it was good funk. But yeah, he shows his fastball. He's got a couple different breaking balls here, and even throws a couple changeups. It's a really nice, mix with strike throwing and some athleticism. And he's a guy that generally speaking, for whatever reason, seems to be in that kind of, I don't know, 30 to 60 range in the draft. And maybe you can save a little bit of money and go up and get him. Again, it's a prep pitching, which the Tigers have not had a ton of success with. But yeah, I mean, there are reasons why they take guys like this because they look promising. And yeah, he's one of my favorite of the high school pitching crop for sure. Just among the righties.
At least, I look at some of it, just everything moves. I mean, like when I watched Owen Hall pitch, I was like, okay, I understand, but everything about this guy just kind of goes across the board, just the way he is able to, and even his windup a little bit is kind of unconventional a little bit. And I could think the Tigers could clean up a little bit and get some more potential out of that. Cause it kind of almost like I won't say slings it in there a little bit, but it's like I would say, mid 3/4 slot there. But the extension, as far as for its height too, I'm sure the Tigers love extension, but at 22, maybe that might be a stretch. I understand that, but look, go ahead, Chris.
No, I mean, if you want to take a guy like that at 22 and give him the money that he would get at like 45, I have no issue with that, right?
Yeah.
Like it is risky, but if you like him and he's like one of the top players on your board, I could see doing it. And who knows? Maybe you can float him down to the 60s with more money than he would get. You never know. Like these high school pitchers, I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to what he did this season as a high schooler. But generally speaking, I would assume it was pretty good because it's a good arm.
Yeah, and I'm starting to look into what his numbers look like this year, and what I love about pitchers when you start doing draft stuff is that you can look at what they've done in the wooden bat leagues and what have you. So that's important to remember. But in college, at least you can look at the competition level a little better and go, okay, if you played in the Big Ten, for example, you can get a good idea of who or what they are. So the next guy I wanted to look at was a right-hander by the name of Cal Randall out of UCLA. This is another guy who I like a lot. And here's Randall, as far as like just why, again, is this a guy who could just fit that motif of like, so when I look at Jensen, is he a guy who can help right away? Probably not. But if these guys on the lower levels start getting healthy, then you can be okay with it. This guy Randall needs a little polish, and that's what Baseball America said. And at first, I was like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And then let me just explain why. Because I think there's a little bit of relief risk with this, but
yeah, I think he has been a reliever for UCLA.
Yeah, swing guy. But like, I love his. The leg kick too, like it's just he's a guy who could come. Like I feel like he'd be a really good swing, like 2-inning, 3-inning reliever. Like a true idea of an opener to me, at least, was based off of some of the stuff. But like the command is a little off a little bit, but I think that he can be cleaned up a little bit.
Yeah, it's it's a little bit like with Michael Massey. They took, right, like where he was a reliever and then he moved to starting at some point, and the thought was the Tigers could maybe stick with him as a starter and see what works, and then if you have to move him back to the bullpen. But yeah, Randall it's a big arm with good stuff, and it's just a matter of like how much. Yeah, nobody likes that.
But I love his windup. It's like really compact, and he finishes strong and just
looks like he gets down the mound pretty good.
Yeah. And I think there's a little bit of deception with that. And I think that this would bode well for a guy, the Tigers, like a little bit of like just they're always interested in different arm angles and what have you. But the tailing action as fastball seems really sharp. But this is a guy who I like too. I mean, this guy may be like a 4th or 5th rounder, perhaps. But
yeah. I could see a team. With relievers, sometimes teams will do that. Like if you took Hirschhorn in the first. And then like another prep player at pick, 61 or whatever it is they have, then maybe you take a reliever with the 3rd pick and save some money there. It's not necessarily the safest thing to do, but it's a way to make it work. And if you believe that guy could get to the big leagues, I mean, we saw Dabrowski do this several times with whose name, Corey Knebel.
Yeah,
and then Chance Ruffin, I think they did it too. So it's something that can work. I don't know if you ever. I mentioned the guy from Mississippi, but I didn't tell you his name. I don't think. And I'm gonna try to find if you got another picture, go ahead and mention him. I was gonna try to find a video of the guy I like.
All right, yeah, go ahead and do that. While I do that, I was gonna mention Ricky Ojeda out of UC Irvine, and so I think I mentioned him earlier in the podcast, but I have some video of him, and he's a lefty, and so the Tigers have been getting that Central California scouting that area very, very dominantly, and he's another lefty who I think could step up and step in right away. But I like his stuff a lot too. So here he is right here for those who are watching along here. Same thing, kind of like that. I'm a big fan of what he could, as far as like just his breaking stuff goes. He is a guy who has primarily been for UC Irvine, from what a little bit I find. Ojeda, by the way, is at first I thought it was maybe some relation to
Bobby Ojeda.
Yeah, Bobby Ojeda, but I didn't think of, like, in my preliminary research, I didn't see anything as of yet. But let me see if I can find what I was looking up earlier for him. But kind of like almost like high. Let me see if it's more like a high 3/4. Yeah, it is. Yes, you see how his arm slot's really high, and that gives him a little bit of ability to. Let me just take this down because you can't see. Let's see here. Well, a little bit of look, he needs to clean up a little bit of things, but nevertheless, I think this is a guy who, same thing, maybe a fifth starter reliever risk, but a guy who I think could help out. I believe it's 5'11". Let me double check his size.
Yeah, he looks a little bit smaller, but that, and the hat doesn't seem to love staying on his head.
Yeah, and Tigers have had guys like that before. But this is a guy who definitely you want to take later. He's a high use. He's a big time reliever. So he has Cape Cod experience. His fastball can go up to 96, and he has 2 breaking balls he can work with. So this is a guy who definitely I think could be utilized in a situation for the Tigers, like late inning reliever type or middle relief. So I know you don't draft from middle relief, quote unquote, but why not?
Yeah, I mean, if you can, it's pro ball, right? Like you take a guy whose arm you like and you try to develop them at the best possible role, and if they fall back into whatever, then that's what happens.
And then, so the other, did you find him, Chris? Or
yeah, I put the link there in our private chat here.
Okay,
it's a Twitter video. I couldn't find a good YouTube one.
Okay, no big deal. Let me see. I'll pull that up here. Taylor. This is a guy.
Rabe, yeah.
Rabe, I did not put this on my list, but I will put him on my list.
It's interesting because he had Tommy John in 2024, so he didn't pitch at all as a freshman, and came back last year and was kind of just a reliever. But he throws just a ton of strikes, and his fastball's up to 99.
Ooh. Wow.
And so yeah, it was. What are the stats this year? 105 strikeouts and 15 walks in 76 innings. It's an interesting kind of arm motion there that I think adds a little bit of fun. But yeah, it's you see the cutter right there is pretty good.
Whoa.
You see him listed as more of like a second rounder, but again, that's a guy that, like, they just haven't targeted guys with arm strength a ton.
I feel like this is a future Marlins pick too.
Yeah, it's possible, and I don't think he has much of a changeup. Although that looks like it's pretty good.
Ooh.
So never mind. But yeah, no, he's just a guy that I kind of 6'5", throws hard, throws strikes. I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Even if he's, I don't know, if maybe his fastball doesn't have traditionally great, shape, but and again, the strike throwing and the arm speed is good, and I think you could work on secondary stuff in pro ball, but. He's projected as like a second rounder in this draft, and I think that would be a solid pick.
This reminds me, he's a right-hander, right? So It reminds me of a right-handed version of Terry Mohammed or Terry
Mulholland.
Remember how you used to do that with the kind of like?
I do not remember Terry Mulholland's delivery, but I trust you on this one because you've got a good memory for that sort of stuff. But again, yeah, like this happens to us every year, right? We dig into the draft, we find certain guys we like, we pay a whole lot of attention, and then they either do or don't get drafted by the Tigers. And in that case, if they don't, we just forget about them. And
Yeah.
for the most part, sometimes the guys we really want go on to a lot of success. You know, we've talked about Cam Smith a ton with you, and I think you wrote up Ben Jacobs last year too,
Yeah, I did.
or projected him, and we talked about Trey Cruz, and but you know I really wanted Bryce Rayner, and they got him, and I remember, you know, we didn't see him, and I thought like, oh, that's a bad sign. I started to worry, and then he came out, and the first pitch he saw in the spring breakout 2 years ago was 114 miles an hour. Like,
Yeah.
oh, all right, that'll work. So yeah, but yeah, Taylor Ray might end up on a different team and might completely forget about him.
Yeah. And then we'll back and go, oh, wait, why does his name sound familiar? We're like, oh, yeah, da da da. So here's Terry Mohamed when he pitched no-hitter in 1990 for the Phillies. He actually pitched for the Giants, too, I believe, as well. But check this out. Like,
Yeah, no, that's a great call, man. It's like a little stab
yeah.
and a quick. It's funny though that the 1990. I remember it looking a lot crisper than this, but
Yeah.
but I don't think it did. Honestly, I don't think it did. We just didn't have HD back then, and so we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But
No, I love the and this is by the way my favorite one of the eras. This is when the Phillies still had those striped jerseys.
pinstripes,
Pinstripes. Those are so cool. And the Giants. This is before the Giants changed. Their lettering on the back is a little different than when they currently have now. The old late 80s, early 90s Giants jerseys are sweet.
I will say the absolute worst thing about this era, and it started in the 70s or whatever, was these cookie cutter stadiums with the turf, right? Like they were just all the same in all turf, and it was, you know, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Cincinnati, like every one of these stadiums, Pittsburgh, they're all the same, and that was one of the great developments. I guess it started with kind of like
Baltimore and Baltimore, right?
Yeah, but also a little bit like Arlington, right? Didn't they? The old Rangers Park that had some elements of Tiger Stadium and had some things, but yeah, Baltimore was the one that people really celebrated and kind of kicked it off. But anyway,
we're getting sidetracked, but it's okay. No, it's okay. And there's one more pitcher I wanted to look at too, who I again fits the Southern California kind of vibe, and that's Mason Edwards, the lefty out of USC, who the Tigers have a strong, who racked up. He had a career high 16 strikeouts against Iowa a couple months ago, and he also same thing. I'm posting here the video in a second here. He has some fun. He has kind of like a, I won't say violent delivery, but he's got a very interesting delivery. And let me just share here in a second. This is a guy too who I maybe a third round guy. Maybe.
Yeah, it depends on, like, you know, again, the college performers tend to move up the draft. But yeah, again, he does not have like an overpowering, at least velocity wise, fastball. It's like 92, I think.
Yeah.
But he led college baseball in strikeouts. It's 170 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so he's definitely got some swing and miss stuff. It's just it's not a traditional sort of starter look.
Yeah, I know they list him at 6'2". I don't think he's 6'2". Maybe
probably
6.
Not.
No, 5'11", maybe.
Yeah, no, it's in college. They like to build.
Yeah.
But not this. I think he will be a starter, at least to begin pro ball. It's just there's just a little bit of funk to it and a longer arm action. But yeah, the hitters do not seem to pick up the ball very well.
I mean, the stat that I had hands on my here is he opened 64 strikeouts in 36 innings. The over the top slot, I don't know why, but I love the over the top slots. You don't see it very often. And but yeah, there's a lot of funk to him.
Yeah, I mean, I think
yeah, right there.
I get, yeah, I mean, the breaking ball is nasty, and I think they're beyond the sort of the lack of premium velocity. The other concern is that USC is now in the Big Ten, and so there's some thought that he's beating up on poor competition, and I think he did struggle a little bit down the stretch, but he's definitely a top 3 round arm. I don't know, and it just takes one team who really likes him and thinks they can, maybe get him more velo or clean it up a little bit, and who knows? You got the next trying to think of like you got the next Gage jump or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good comparison too. And then this is the other one too that the other angle that I liked that is on YouTube. In case you're interested in Mason Edwards, is they slowed it down here. So Prospect Pipeline does a fantastic job with their videos, which is a main source. Yeah. I mean, it comes out. You can't really see what's going on with it till the last possible second until the dipping action on it is intense. And so,
I'm trying to tell myself not to look at his face when he releases the ball because everybody looks foolish when they throw a pitch, but you just look at their face, you're like, I'm boy. But yeah, that's good looking. I don't know, like I said, he's kind of a bigger name and a big performer, and I think that he's got a chance to go pretty well in the draft. And if the Tigers were to target him in the second or third round, I wouldn't hate it.
And then obviously with the Tigers recently, they've been going after random arms and from the Great Plains states. So I looked at Brody Ross from Oklahoma, who went to the same Kichwa, that weird community college I can't think of. He's committed to, but I have to look more at Oklahoma. Copper Leggett's another arm too that Baseball America recommended. And so that pitching piece will probably be out for those who are watching us now on Saturday. Probably all in the next couple of days or so, but I'm just trying, like I said, there's some more. Like I said, the list is there. It's extensive, but
this is part of how we get into it, right? Like we give ourselves an assignment and then we dig in and then we figure out the guys we like.
Yeah, especially because also been getting tips from random. We had a listener, so I'll tell this story real quick, because then we'll get out of here. So excuse me. We had a gentleman who reached out to me about his son who's going to be in the camp coming up on Monday. And I'm trying to find his email right now.
He's gonna be the draft combine is coming up.
Yeah. Mickey Gilligan, who his scout time, he has really good pop time. He's out of New Jersey, which kind of fits the Tigers motif. Apparently he was at Comerica. So there's been this, excuse me, a scouting combine at Comerica Park where the Tigers brought in a couple guys that they like to take a look. Doesn't mean anything, it's just guys they like and potentially, but he was there. And so his father reached out to me and I'm getting to know his father quite a bit. And, it was just cool. It was just random. It's like, you write about Tiger prospects and I just wanted to give you his name. So take a look at him now, and we'll be looking at the positional breakdowns as it comes. But it was just I haven't watched his to be truthful. I haven't really watched a lot of his offense, and that's one of the things I'm gonna start digging into as well. But this is the time of year. It's so hard to do it. I mean, for people that do draft coverage and draft coverage alone, that's a lot. And kudos to like people at Baseball America, Carlos, Jeff, JJ Cooper, all those guys that do it all year round. The guys at D1baseball.com, that's a really good website too. A lot of great information there. I just, when we do the minors, we do the major league team. My brains only have so much capacity.
Yeah. Well, no, for sure. And yeah, there's only so much room hours in the day, right? Like,
yeah,
it's one. If you're covering the big league team as well as you can, then you can't cover the minors.
Yeah. You, by the way, Toledo. Toledo just put Efros is starting on tonight for Mud Hens.
Who was scheduled?
Oh, is it the first time? Is Efros been pitching it?
Yeah, he's been pitching.
Okay, I don't know why I didn't think he was been pitching for a while, but anyway. So thank you so much for watching, and like I said, we'll have this out for everybody else for our YouTube a couple days later. For your Patreon folks, thank you so much for being subscribers. Thank you for all the feedback we've been getting on the draft stuff, and you can check out the draft piece Chris just did at TigersMLReport.com. It's on the front page, and my draft piece, like I said, will probably draft tomorrow or Monday. More than likely tomorrow. Is just like I said, it's tomorrow is Father's Day, and I'm going to go down to the ballpark more than likely. The Tigers look for the sweep against the White Sox, but again, if you have any other suggestions for bonus episode content, that's the other thing too I wanted to mention before we get out of here. If you're a subscriber to our YouTube channel or our Patreon, if you have an idea, whether it's Tigers history, whether it's a draft, whatever it is, just let us know and we will do an episode, because the the bonus episodes are really for everybody who pays for us to the chips in. We really appreciate it. But we can go Tigers history. We can do a lot of different things. And we like doing this extra bonus stuff for you because you guys have been so patient with everything, and we just appreciate the feedback. So if there's something you have in mind, like for example, if you are interested in, I don't know,
cutlery,
or the Tigers history with guys from USC, whatever the case is, it can be random. By all means, we will do a deep dive for you. It's to me, I love, you use newspapers.com, right? That's a great website, isn't it?
Yeah. That shows, it's fun because newspapers don't really exist anymore, but they used to have some interesting coverage back in the day, and things that we didn't know or maybe forgot are in there.
Yeah.
We could do more. It's maybe not an in-season thing, but you remember, I think last year, I think I did kind of like a prospect retrospective on Reese Olson.
Yeah.
We could do one for Kerry Carpenter or some of these other prospects that are these players who, maybe like Kerry Carpenter's ascent to the big leagues was so swift that we never really, I don't even think we ever got him on a prospect list. We might have.
I think towards the end, because I remember when we first started Discord, we had some people ask us when he was off to a really good start in Erie if he was a dude. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about this a bunch, but I think one of the first times we went to Erie together, he had a 2-homer, 2-double game. It was absolutely monster, and that was the game that Reese Olson had an immaculate inning, and it was like, man, this is interesting. But just going back and thinking and like seeing what did we miss from Kerry Carpenter? Why did we not have him like a top 5 prospect in the system?
That's a great conversation piece to start with. Even for example, you can look at a guy like Jim Jarvis, for example. I think Jim Jarvis is another perfect example of that. Yeah. So like Jarvis, he was our top 25, I think, pretty much.
At some point, I mean, we liked his defense, and we definitely liked he put the bat on the ball. He just didn't. I remember writing that for whatever reason he's just never hit. He's never hit for average, but he didn't really strike out. He walked a fair amount and he hit the ball fairly hard. It was just on the ground a lot, even going back to college. So he felt like a guy who could break out with just a little bit of a swing tweak or something like that, and not break out to be a star or anything like that. But he's an 11th round pick and he made it to the big leagues, and that's a win every day of the week.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And the Braves saw something the Braves are really good at identifying talent. So, and even another one I love to revisit is Devon Travis.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. So yeah, we could do stuff like that. But again, I mean, we'll do it if the Patreon people want it. But that may be more of an off-season thing.
Yeah.
But either way.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be a great idea. So if you have any ideas, let us know in the email. Our email usually is on there, or just shoot us a message on Patreon. We would love to respond like Stan did. So Stan, thank you for your question about that. And we'll take your feedback. And like I said, we are, for example, I took down ads on the regular website. Ever since then, our website traffic's gone up. So we take feedback very seriously here, and we love our audience. And so thank you again. And look forward to talking to you soon. Like I said, July 11th. Times we'll have special guests. I'm not sure about the guest yet, but more than likely the pool will be in play. More than likely again, it has to be in play, and it's just like that's the way it is.
It's been relatively cold around this last few days, and I think it's going to stay in this temperature range. But you can count on it being warm in mid-July, I think.
Yeah, this year, you know what? Though, I think we should set it up in the patio. We should set it up back. Well, no, you know what?
We could do that. We just kind of need probably a Wi-Fi booster, but.
Oh yeah, true. That's right. Or like I said, I mean, we could have the ability to have multiple setups. Like I can easily now I have mics where I can this mic I got for work, I can literally set up anywhere, and so like we could have just go out in the patio and all that, take a break and everything, because this is going to be a long draft, and the Tigers don't draft till 22nd pick, but we'll like I said, we'll have guests, we'll do the same shenanigans we always do, and we're the only draft show in town. And that's fine by me. It's but yeah, we're always it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy the draft, and like I said, well, keep it classy, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.